Shuckalaka kapow. How's it going, old schoolers? You're kicking it old school at Russell J.S. And I am your host, Russell J.S. Tonight we're going to do an album versus album, track by track. It's soundtrack versus soundtrack. Tonight I am going to put the soundtrack albums, movie soundtrack albums of Dazed and Confused versus The Wedding Singer. Now, what are these two movies, what would they have in common with each other than the fact that they're comedies and period films where, one movie takes place where, over-the-top rock and roll was starting to rule. You had day glow, lava lamps, puka shells, bell bottoms, and muscle cars at their peak. While the other movie takes place in the decade where dudes sported mullets, Pac-Man was big in the arcade, and you were on Saturday morning, you were thrilling in your pajamas from 6 a.m. till noontime with Saturday morning cartoons consisting of Bugs Bunny, Inhumanoids, Visionaries, Transformers, and also TV shows like Magnum P.I. and Knight Rider and Dukes of Hazzard ruled primetime TV. And you know what? Some really good over-the-top hard rock and heavy metal were ruling the airwaves, and some modern rock like, good rock like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the Cars, the Police, Bruce Springsteen, and you had pop like Michael Jackson and Madonna and Prince. Also, hip hop was really in its infancy by the early 1980s. But the thing is, these two, and not to mention one movie that, Dazed and Confused, it's about all the people of the high school, the stoners, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the incoming freshmen, all getting together to have a big last day of school bash for the summer of 76, which would become the country's bicentennial. And The Wedding Singer is, and you know what? Dazed and Confused also helped pave the way for up-and-coming young actors such as Matthew McConaughey and Ben Affleck, the late Nicky Katt, and, Joey Lauren Adams. And, it helped pave the way for newer, younger, upcoming actors and actresses. And The Wedding Singer we saw as a romantic comedy that takes place in 85. An older Billy Idol playing himself in 1985. But hey, for the movie, you got to suspend disbelief. And we also saw the great chemistry that Adam Sandler has as a leading man in a romantic comedy with collaborating with Drew Barrymore, which he would go on and he would, collaborate with Selma Hayek in Grown Ups, Jennifer Aniston, and just go with it. But you know what? They had great soundtrack albums that is almost like a compilation of each of the decades. Like Dazed and Confused is like a compilation of great 70s rock, and The Wedding Singer is like a compilation of what was popular in 80s music. So without further ado, let's compare these two bad Oscars, see how they rank up, who's going to come out the winner, shall we? We got Dazed and Confused movie soundtrack versus The Wedding Singer movie soundtrack. So again, without further ado, now bear in mind a lot of these songs are older songs too. They were older songs of the time. They had to do it for the movie to make things authentic. So without further ado, let's get these bad Oscars ranking up, shall we? Okay. From Dazed and Confused versus The Wedding Singer, you got Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo by Rick Derringer versus Video Killed the Radio Star. The original was covered by the Buggles, which I believe was the first music video on MTV, but it was covered by the presidents of the United States of America. Now, for those of you who maybe remember being a teenager in the 90s, like I was, they were a short, alternative punk rock band that was short-lived. They had a couple hit songs. I believe one of them was called Lump. And Weird Al Yankovic would go ahead and spoof it, have his own parody of it called Gump, where he told the story of Forrest Gump. And you know what? It's a really good rendition of this classic 80s tune. I had to put it in there, so I'm maybe going to cheat a little bit. So, and you know what? Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo is a classic, and in memory of Rick Derringer, who just passed away some time ago, I'm going to give both of them a point. Okay, Slow Ride by Foghat versus Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by Culture Club. You know, in a way, yes, I really want to hurt Culture Club, but I can't say the way I would like to because I don't want to be considered a bully or anything like that because, you know, it is a very weak song and Culture Club was short-lived. I mean, a lot of you remember Boy George, but I'm sorry. Foghat takes the win for that one. School's Out by Alice Cooper versus Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by The Police. You know what? The Police were a great band in the 1980s. I mean, their frontman Sting, he became a successful solo artist in his own right. But you know, that's not one of the best by The Police. I mean, I can't compare it to Roxanne or Every Breath You Take. To me, those are great Police tunes. So again, Dazed and Confused takes the win with School's Out. Jim Dandy by Black Oak, Arkansas versus How Soon Is Now by the Smiths. You know, Jim Dandy by Black Oak, Arkansas, what a great Southern country rock anthem that is. I had the privilege to see Black Oak, Arkansas for free with David Allan Coe about 10 years ago. And you know what? You know, and How Soon Is Now, I kind of like that kind of grungy, urban, you know, urban rock vibe that it has, so they both get a point. Okay, Cherry Bomb by the Runaways versus Hold Me Now by the Thompson Twins. Yeah, the Thompson Twins, I think the one song I really like by them was off the Ghostbusters soundtrack called In the Name of Love, which was playing just before they went off to the Sedgwick Hotel to go bust Slimer, before Peter Venkman got slimed for the first time. And, you know, Hold Me Now, it was all right for its time. I mean, but I have to give it to Dazed and Confused with Cherry Bomb. Fox on the Run by Sweet versus Every Day I Write the Book by Elvis Costello. Not a huge Costello fan. In fact, the only song by Elvis Costello I really like is Allison. So I'm going to go with Fox on the Run. Lowrider by War versus Love My Way by the Psychedelic Furs. Yeah, Psychedelic Furs were not really all that great, so I'm giving it to War. Tuesday's Gone by Leonard Skinner versus White Wedding by Billy Idol. Oh, this is really good. This is really, 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 really good. Tuesday's Gone is a really nice, great Southern rock, you know, country rock ballad, you know, and I mentioned it in the video that I made about, you know, Metallica Garage Inc. and White Wedding by Billy Idol. Oh, come on, man. Billy Idol in the 80s was the man. And you know what? I love them both, so they both get a point. Highway Star by Deep Purple versus China Girl by David Bowie. You know, I love that song, Highway Star. I mean, that's the kind of song I like to listen to, like if I'm behind, like when I was behind the wheel of Mustang Sally or my Firebird Red Sonja back in the day. With the windows down, the radio going, even at my older age. And there it is going up against China Girl. I love David Bowie, but, China Girl's not all that great compared to Let's Dance, Ziggy Stardust, or Space Oddity, so I'm giving that one to Dazed and Confused. All right. Whoa. I know there's going to be one in particular where you're going to think I'm stupid if I choose the other. Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss versus Blue Monday by New Order. Now, here's the thing. My favorite version of Rock and Roll All Night is the Alive version because it's got the guitar solo that Ace Frehley does. And, New Order's Blue Monday, that's a really killer tune as well. You know what? I love them both, so they're each getting a point. Now, last but certainly not least, this is going to be another one. Paranoid by Black Sabbath versus Pass the Dutchie by Musical Youth. Yeah, that Pass the Dutchie, no. That's more of a kiddie tune, and I would be stupid to choose that one over Paranoid by Black Sabbath, so therefore, Black Sabbath takes the win there. And the results are in with Dazed and Confused soundtrack versus the Wedding Singer soundtrack. We've got Dazed and Confused with 11 points, the Wedding Singer with 4 points. Dazed and Confused wins. Now, I love the 80s. And you know what? I appreciate and respect the 70s. After all, I was born at the latter end of the 70s. I was born in 1978, which next week I will be celebrating my 47th birthday. I was born in July of 1978, and here I am, I respect the 70s. I appreciate the 70s. I love the 80s because it was a great time to be a kid, but I'm sorry, they didn't pick a really good selection of tunes for the Wedding Singer soundtrack. They should have had some Van Halen. You think about all the artists that came out of the 80s, besides like Elvis Costello, Culture Club, The Police, Billy Idol, and David Bowie. They could have added, a track by Van Halen. They could have had maybe, Michael Jackson tune, a Motley Crue tune, a Bon Jovi tune, because those are other artists defined the 1980s with music. But then, hey, I understand because, you got to get rights, licensing from, like the management and the families and the artists and all that. And you know what? Sad to say for the 80s fans, Dazed and Confused, which is a collection of 7 classic 70s hard rock and heavy metal, it really went ahead and it beat it. Get it? Beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it. But, this is it. This is the final result. And, I've got other videos in the making right now as we speak. I'm starting to get this book all filled up for what I'm going to do next. Look at this. I want to do a tribute. I want to have the originals versus the tribute covers from Tribute to the Ramones. And I got one for Kiss, for the Kiss tribute album as well. And then I'm going to do some more album versus album, track by tracks. I'm also going to do, other videos. Everything is up in the air right now. Look at this. I'm even going to pin the Blues Brothers soundtrack against the soundtrack to This Is Spinal Tap. Get ready. We're going to do some really good stuff. Until then, you know what? Remember to listen to old school rock, watch old school TV shows, watch old school 80s movies, play some Atari, play some Nintendo, heck, ColecoVision and television, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Gear, Coleco tabletop Pac-Man, whatever your desire. And keep it real, keep it chill, keep it fresh. Keep it good. Get you enough of less chaos, less drama. Get you enough of love, peace, tranquility. And if you're new to the channel, hit a like, subscribe, leave comments in the box down below, ring that bell for notifications. And remember, no negative comments, otherwise I delete you and block you. And as always, I wish you Godspeed. May the force be with you always. And shucka-lucka kapow. And, say hi to Ollie over there. Ollie, what you doing, boy? What you doing?
What he doing, huh?
Shucka-lucka kapow.